My name is Spencer Ongwe, and I'm a young man, very ambitious, and surrounded by some of the best brothers I am proud to call my brothers in the world.
My name is Marshall Tinotenda Matsilele, father of two girls, Michaela, the firstborn, Chris Taylor, the secondborn, married to Kudzai Paula Matsilele.
I was a young man, married to one wife, Amanda Mudzingwa, a beautiful wife, mother to two kids, two daughters, Alina and Analia. One who looks like her mother and the other looks like the dad.
I am John Sinchuke, father of three, married to a beautiful wife, Vimbai Sinchuke. Three kids, the eldest, Lisa Sinchuke, quite old now, 14 years old. Second born, Ethan Sinchuke, turning 11, and last born, Tinevimbo Sinchuke. They all look like me. They all look like me, photocopy of myself. You know, people would always like to say, they're all photocopy of yourself. A beautiful family I have, one that inspires me into so many things, and the way my life is led today, it has been God working through my family to make me the man I am today. Being born in a pastor's house, we had so much that controlled our lives, especially my father's ministry. So everything that we have been, I have been, has been about religious things that all was surrounded by, you know, him going around preaching. As a young man, I would all go around with him. He would put me on top of a table and say memory verses and preach, short sermonettes. But my brother, after he had an experience at Nyazura Mission, started to love music a lot. So every time he would come home, he would have me sit there and write songs and, you know, decode some notes and have me singing. There's so many songs I know of head, note by note, not because I sang the song anyway, but because the way my brother Nsandula Sinchuke loved music would use me to create music that he would sing. And that became a background for me that taught me music, things that I know. I can decode notes, not because I went to school for it, but because I learned it off the hands of my brother.
I started singing at a very tender age. I remember I joined the church choir when I was in grade 5 at Nyazura. Then later on, because you know you can't sing in the church choir when you are not baptized, then that's when I had to go back to Sabbath school choir. But I started singing with my brother Joseph Mudzingwa. Back then, when we were I was in grade 6 and he was in grade 7. And we used to sing the songs like, "My God and I go in the fields together. We walk and talk as good friends should and do. We clasp our hands, our voices ring with laughter. My God and I walks in the meadows you." So we used to sing that song, and even now we still remember those songs. And Mr. Rushwaya used to play the guitar for us when we were singing.
I started singing in 1995. I was grade 7 at Nyazura. I thank Mr. Rushwaya for introducing me to music. Before that, I think the worst singer in my family. Everyone else was born with it, and you know, at times my sister would then shake me to tell me that, no, you're actually singing off tune. But Mr. Rishwaya was patient with me, and we had a group that we used to sing with as kids in primary school. With Marshall Matsilele, Madeline Chikwana, Sekesha, Tsitsiti Chwanui, and Stokozile Mabena. We used to sing in church, and we even go to farms that were neighboring the mission school, just to sing during the church programs that were being conducted there. And Mr. Shkai would play guitars. One of the best songs that we used to sing was "I Found a Friend in Jesus," and it still rings in my mind It talks about Jesus being our closest friend, and he's always there through and through. And truly speaking, he's been there all the time.
Started singing in 1989. I was not even, I think I was still, it was still way before primary school, and started singing with a group back in Zivaresekwa. We were singing unison, young people, you know, young, okay, I could say toddlers singing, but the love for music started back then when I was so young. Until I moved to Chitungwiza, where we started a group that was around 1992, 93, which sang, I think, in places that sometimes when I try to revisit those experiences, it's wonderful. Sang in Zambia at a Kempori, a song, Feeling at Home in the Presence of Jesus. Never forget that song. And we kept singing until I moved to Nyazura Mission. That was 1997. And that is when I met Joseph Mudzingwa. Now, Joseph's sister, Rumbi Zai, was singing with my brother. So as I came to Nyazura Mission, it was tailor-made. We were supposed to meet. So as soon as I was there, Joseph Mudzingwa, with the links he had with Marshall Matsilele, we came up with a group. And we started singing, both of them singing first tenor. I was singing. I used to sing first tenor most of the time, before I moved to Nyazura. And then I started singing second tenor because they had fine high voices I couldn't compete with.
My music background basically started when I went to Nyazura. That was in 1996. That's when I was exposed to the singing that was done by my older brothers. As you now know them, Joseph Zingwa being the oldest, Marshall Matsilele being the second contender. And we have Koma John, who is the talkative one in the group as well. But all those are the people that actually make and molded my musical background into something that makes sense through their dedication and commitment to serving in the ministry of Christ. When I went to Nyazura, first, of course, I couldn't just start by singing with them, but I tried. My first experience was when I tried to join the Sabbath choir singing tenor, but then I failed the audition. The choir then was led by the Sabbath choir was led then by Mr. Rushwa. I failed the audition, which really put me off, or it actually made me very angry. I retired for a short while, and I pushed myself to start singing by copying the light voice of Marshall Matsilele in the background, in the shower there by the dormitories, and other voices of other people that I don't exactly recall, but Marshall Matsilele plays a massive role in who I am today and where I come from as a Christian musician.
So one of the guys who play our keyboard called Nyasha Rushwaya, in 1995, when we started singing with Mudzingwa, Nyasha is the year that he was born, but he's now he's now the guy that plays our keyboards, and he's very good into that. So you see how it has been in the journey, where we now sing with some guy who we went to give presents to when he was born, but that's how God is. And there's an age difference. Spencer was also young to us when we were at Nyazura, but now we are singing with him.
We then sang in the choirs, Sabasu choir. The other time we sang in youth choir that was conducted by the old man, Mr. Ndlovu. We then sang with the church choir with Mr. Sunguru Sabasu choir, and then the church choir with Mr. Rushwaya. All this time I used to sing with the guys that we're singing now, Spencer, Ongwe, John, and Marshall.
We went to Form 1, Form 2, that's when we were graduating to church choir. And we used to sing first tenor back then. I still sing first tenor, even in this group, but my brother now is singing bass, but he used to sing first tenor with me. He matured faster than me, so his voice, I think I'll say it in Shona, Raka Breaker. And he failed to join the church choir. And everyone was expecting us to get in the church choir because we were the good voices then. But then he now sings bass. So you hear him singing bass. God at least blessed him to continue singing bass. And I still sing first tenor in this group.
They were expecting to actually go to the church choir, but there were changes in their voices, especially my brother Joseph, whose voice turned deeper and he started singing bass. So then he had to start off from the Sabbath school choir until later on we were together in the church choir singing bass. The same time, just about the same time his voice broke, it's the same time mine broke too, because I was a first tenor. Still believe I am a natural first tenor, but to some extent I also got to that puberty point where my voice deepened and I sang bass the whole of my high school days. Even thereafter with the group King's Harps, which turned Waymarks, I was singing bass right through. Sang with Spencer. He joined us in one of the songs that I love. We did back then, and he would do the solo of the song that even inspired me into naming my son Tinevimbo, the song Tinevimbo, the one he leads with Firm Faith. And we would bring him to sing some of the nicer songs with Waymarks until the relationship kept growing and we became a unit.
We started our own group called Joy Bells. Then I sang with Tidings Mtunzi, Fiu Mwakanjumba, Ngoni Brawa, and some other guys. That's when Marshall picked me from that batch when I started singing. The song I used to sing then and actually be connected to was the song Where Is My Father? A little girl, she's grown up but only 4. That was the song I used to sing. Where is my father? Has he gone away? Marshall still loves the song up to today, and sometimes he actually tells me you never sing like that again. But I beg to differ. From then on, after Joy Bells, that's as I was growing, that's when the guys called me in now to start singing with them in the group Waymarks. That's when they actually accepted me as their young brother, and I am still and happy to be their young brother, and started teaching me to sing more from the heart instead of just sing generally for the fun of singing.
I left Nyazura in 2001 and came to Harare. For some time I wasn't singing. We then formed Waymarks with the guys. It then probably lasted for its time, and then guys parted, went different cities, countries, and we're still trying to find life where we could fit in the society. So everyone went their own way. I went to Botswana, came back, and then I joined Lighthouse. That was 2003. And then from 2003 until now, I was singing with Lighthouse. I went to Solusi for a bit, 4 years, but I was still part of Lighthouse. I joined Praise Symphony. I was also the music director and the president there. I never stopped singing.
And I also sang with John Bonney at high school, group called King's Harp. He was my director then. He used to really like singing, John as well. Of course, along the way, he stopped singing, and I continued singing with Mzingwa and Spencer. I didn't sing with many groups. I'm loyal to a few groups. So I sang with King's Harp, which was then later Waymarks. We sang there for some time, and we started Firm Faith in 2006. And until now, it's still there. I'm the director of the group.
I moved quite early, because my life seemed to, I think, move way faster. I married early, I started working early and all that. So I moved to Bulawayo. That was 2005. And since I moved to Bulawayo, my singing career looked like it stopped to the many people who knew me singing for groups like Lighthouse and Waymarks. But when I moved, my father would always say this every time he talks about me, that wherever he goes, he creates a group somewhere. And so when I moved to Bulawayo, unknown to many, I sang with a couple of groups. One, Quiet Rest. I sang first with Quiet Rest, and then we created another group, mixed group, which we called Gem. We also sang with the likes of Roy Makati, Reward Makati, the Makati family. And then I also created a group that was a combination of the many a cappella groups in Bulawayo, which we named Let Them Know. So my singing experience didn't die out, but I wasn't in the forefront as I used to be back in the times when I used to be in Harare and back in Nyazura. Now, I then got into a calling I believe God called me to speak. So I became a preacher. For quite a time, I was now preaching and not singing until COVID time came. And the guys, Joseph, would always, at any given time he gets to talk to me, would remind me of how I used to sing and how he wishes we form a group.
I left Nyazura after Form 4 and I went to Solusi. But because of the seed they planted in me, I couldn't stop growing in singing. I then joined a group there called Powerhouse. We started a group actually called Powerhouse, which only lasted for 2 years when I was doing my A-level at Solusi Adventist High School. But upon return to Harare, Mkoma Jose and Mkoma Mashi couldn't wait for me to settle down even. They had to call me back to join Waymarks. That's when we were singing the songs, Oh, Jesus, He gave the water. And also the song that I wrote, Tinevimbo. And after that, that's when Marshall started Firm Faith. I joined them in late 2006. And ever since, we've just been growing in the ministry of serving Christ and bringing lives to Christ, changing lives through music. But not only changing lives, but this music has also been transforming to our own lives.
We always used to talk about forming a quartet with Spencer, John, and Marshall, but we would never really get time to start the project until COVID came through and we had nothing to do. And we looked for something that was convenient, and it was convenient to form a quartet. So we came together and we did one song with EZC Media, and we liked what we did, and we decided to make it permanent, and boom, here we are.
Marshall, along with my wife, came up with an idea for EZC Media, and they muscled me into this setup we now have as the Lords Quartet, and we did our first project. And that beautiful project inspired so much, especially to me, reminded of how it used to be when we used to sing together as a unit. And from that day, the Lords Quartet was born. And this is where we are now, singing together. And so many of the memories, some of them from as far as high school. We had so much that we had done in the past, which has formed what we now know today as music. And I hope the new experience that has been created will bless you and draw you closer to Jesus, because without Him, nothing else will work and nothing else matters.
We used to sing in high school. A lot of groups, Melody 4, Melody what, there were a lot of groups, but those were high school groups. But my brother John went to Bulawayo and he went with his voice. He stopped singing. He was one of the inspirational guys, if I tell you, one guy who used to love singing. I think he had many groups than all of us when we were at high school. But I don't know what happened to him. He stopped singing. But he was going to church. He now liked the preaching. He's a very good preacher. But now he's back in singing. So it's one thing that I'm happy about, one thing which motivated us to form this group, Lords Quartet. And you hear him singing baritone. Solos, yeah, he's going to start singing solos again. It's a matter of time. It's in someone who has not been singing for some time, but you'll be doing it. So this is Lords Quartet for us, and we started 2020. Also the time we started the hymns, I think you've seen when we were doing the hymns, COVID, we could not meet as groups, as Femfe, there's other groups we could not meet. Then as guys, it's convenient just to say, we can drive and meet at one place and start singing. Then we did our one project, but now we've got an album which we are launching today, and I hope you'll be blessed by this project.
My brothers actually called me to join them and give more by encouraging me that you should never cease to occupy until his return. They've shown me another angle and expressed to me another message which never made sense before the COVID situation. And that message is in the first song that we did together. God has always been there all the time. That was the first recording that we did together. And in that song is the story that tells us where we've been with my brothers. When I met Matsilele, when I met Mkoma Jose, when I met Mkoma John, that all this time, though we were looking in other places, by reuniting us together and bringing out this new ministry called the Lords Quartet, God is simply proving that he will always be there, and he's been there